And we want to get to Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters, who is taking the podium right now to talk about some videos that went viral from the Georgia-Florida game. Let's listen in.
Been circulating on social media, as everyone knows. JSO immediately began administrative reviews of the involved officers' actions. These administrative reviews are ongoing, but to date, our Professional Standards Division has not found any of the involved officers violating JSO policy. Even though the administrative reviews has yet to be completed, we are releasing the body-worn camera footage today due to the significant public interest surrounding these incidents. As JSO's leader, I have vowed to be open and transparent with the public that we serve. Whether the information shared reflects well on this agency or not, I've always done my very best to tell the public exactly what's going on within this agency. When there are allegations of officer misconduct, our agency thoroughly investigates those allegations, and we provide punishment to the officers that are involved in misconduct if they're sustained. And we hold our officers accountable. In this case, the cell phone camera footage that has been circulating since Saturday does not comprehensively capture the circumstances surrounding these incidents, and that is to be expected. Part of that stems from the distance and perspective of the recording cell phone cameras. Another part of it stems from the fact that the cell phone cameras did not capture the events that led up to the arrest, which is very, very important. Moreover, cameras can only capture what can be seen and heard. So much context and depth are absent from recorded footage because a camera simply cannot capture what is known to the people depicted in it. As a 33-year law enforcement veteran, I understand the importance of thorough and complete investigations. One piece of evidence considered in a vacuum without any context can lead to faulty and dangerous conclusions. With incomplete cell phone camera footage, when it becomes the basis on which public opinion turns, the results can be equally faulty and dangerous. A rush to judgment, whether it be in a criminal investigation or in a court of public opinion, can lead to serious errors in judgment. And such errors in judgment can have dangerous, potentially deadly consequences. Just today, we learned that one of the involved officers has been the subject of an online death threat. This is an excerpt from these threats, and I quote, "I don't need context. N-word. You better hope I don't learn who you are. I will hunt this N-word and kill him. I am coming. Equalizer. I don't give a S-H-I-T who they are. I am getting ready to start putting bullets in them." Tonight, we share the known facts so that the public has a more complete understanding of these incidents. Yes, there was force used by the arresting officers, and yes, that force is always ugly. But the reality is that all violence is ugly. And just because force is ugly does not mean it is unlawful or contrary to policy. Before I call on Jacob Vorpal, JSO's Commander of Public Accountability Section, to deliver the currently available information, I want to provide a little background on JSO's presence and role at the Georgia-Florida football game. Approximately 70,000 people attended this game, an event which carries the dubious nickname of America's largest outdoor cocktail party. 128 JSO officers and 12 supervisors worked that event on the inside. 8 people were arrested and 35 people were ejected from the game. The officers who arrested Brown, Michael, and Alexander Long and Boley are Officers E.D. Kelly, Officers D.J. Bowers, Officer J. Anthony, Sergeant J.S. Beasley, and Officer A. Cantino. Additionally, I'd like to note that while the 2 of the arresting officers had the same skin color, they were not in fact the same person, as many have suggested and outright lied about in some cases. Completely misrepresented. When JSO officers work games such as Georgia-Florida, they are there to support the safe workers, the civilian security workers from the stadium. When a safe worker observes a spectator failing to follow stadium behavior protocol, that safe worker will ask that person to leave. If that person refuses to leave the stadium, that safe worker will then request the presence of JSO officers to assist in ejecting that individual or person from the stadium. JSO does not patrol the stadium and engage in proactive policing on site, unless, of course, there's an emergency that they observe. Our agency is there in a supportive role. These 2 incidents which led to these arrests are separate and distinct from each other. They occurred in the 4 p.m. hour and the 6 p.m. hour, respectively. Now I'll turn things over to Commander of the Public Accountability Section, Commander Jacob Vorpal. Jake?
Thanks, Sheriff. So there's 2 incidents that have been circulating on social media that have gotten the most scrutiny, and we're going to cover those 2 incidents today. The first video that you're going to see is going to be a video that's been circulating on social media regarding the first incident. So context is important, and we're going to start by talking about how this whole incident began. So around 4:20 p.m., there was an employee with SAFE who was working her assigned section of the stadium. At that time, she's making sure people that are coming have the appropriate tickets for where they're going. Some children approached her to go to the section they didn't have tickets for, so she asked them to go find their parents and to come back with a ticket. There was some discussion back and forth about getting this ticket when eventually Walter Brown arrived and pushed the SAFE worker out of the way, accused her of kidnapping his children and threatened to kill her, and then grabbed one of his children and dragged them along up the stadium stairs and told his other kids to follow him. At this point in time, the stadium worker decided that she did not want to be the victim of a crime of a battery, which did occur. However, she did want JSO to respond and evict the attendee from the stadium. So Officers Bowers and Kelly responded and spoke to the SAFE employee. After getting the information from her, they then proceeded to go up to the section. So the first video we're going to watch is going to be body-worn camera footage that has been combined from Bowers and Kelly. It's going to begin with them ascending the stairs to when they make the initial contact with Brown. And we just want to point out, for the sake of brevity, we have cut the footage from one officer to another because Officer Kelly initially makes contact with Brown, then steps back, and he's not close enough to capture the conversation between Officer Bowers and Brown, so we will then switch to Officer Brown's body-worn camera footage. And as a reminder, the first 30 seconds of body-worn camera footage is not recorded for audio, but is recorded for video.
Hey, sir, you been in Texas or we all believe? Huh? No. This lady here assaulted me, and I have it on camera. You would like to see it? It's their private property. They want you to leave, so you have to leave. It's her private property? Listen. Remember I told you I'm either going to kill a cop or not leave. One or the other. Tase me up. Get up. 49, a couple more minutes. Get up. I didn't do anything against the law. So tell me what my crime was. Right now it's trespassing. Come on. You don't touch me. She tried to kidnap my kids. I did. Can I talk? There's a good way to do it. There is a good way to go downstairs and talk. There's a good way. There's a right way. There's a wrong way. There's a right way. I'm still sitting in my seat. The way you're doing right now is wrong. No, I'm still sitting in my seat. Right now? I'm still sitting in my seat. The right way is for me to tell you what happened. Because I'm not leaving with all 5 of my kids here. I'm not leaving. They can go with you or you can go to jail. They're not doing that. I'll go to jail. I'm going to beat your go to jail, DJ Bowers. Dude, you're not going to do that. I will do that. I'm trying to keep you going to jail. She tried to kidnap my kids. I understand what you're saying. She tried to kidnap my kids. You're not touching me. You're not touching me. Now you want some? Now you want some? Don't do that, dude. Don't do that. Pull the gun out. Pull the gun out. Hey. I'm not going to jail. You stop me. Hit him. Y'all get sued. Y'all get sued. I'm here to get rid. We're fighting. I'm fixing to get rid. You're not fighting anybody. I haven't fighting anybody. Come on, dude. You did it yourself. What's he doing? Stop. I haven't done anything. Stop. Put your hand behind your back. I'm trying to help you on this, but you're not helping yourself. I haven't done anything. Put your hands behind your back. I haven't done it. There are. I'm trying, but I haven't done anything. You know right now to do this. You know that. Back up. Don't touch me. I haven't done anything, man. You know that. Come on. Put your hand behind your back. Got you. Put your hand behind your back. Get your hand behind your back. Y'all both gonna lose your jobs. DJ Bowery. You ain't lose your job. Please film it. Come on. Yes, sir. Come on. Get him up. I'm tangled up. Hold on. Throw them pensions out the door. Hope y'all are having fun. Angel call 141, 439. Hey, babe. Stand up, dude. I'm trying to stand up. I'm trying to help you guys. Come on. I haven't done anything, man. I'm good, dude. I didn't say you're not. Hey, Justine. My two's right here. You go get your money. This right here, bro. You go get your money. Don't worry. 349 349. Got detained. We're going to rescue. Lacerations to the face. Tased multiple times.
At that point, they proceed to escort Brown down to the security office in the stadium and proceed to take him to get treatment for his injuries. So it's important to note that we, for the sake of viewing audience at home, we had to censor some of the words that were said, but in case it wasn't clear, he repeatedly was using the N-word directed at the black officer. We want to highlight some points that have some points of emphasis in this video, things that you may have missed because of how dynamic and fast body-worn camera footage and events unfold. The first thing we're going to point out is before any use of force took place, when they made the initial contact with Brown, he made two specific threats to the officers.
Private property, what you leave, you got to leave. It's our private property. Listen, remember I told you, I'm either going to kill a cop or not leave. One or the other. You got tase, get up. I'm not leaving. All five of my kids here. I'm not leaving. You can go with you or you can go to jail. They're not doing this. I'll go to jail. I'm going to jail. DJ Bowers. You're not going to do that. I will do that.
So at this point, Walter Brown has just made statements indicating that he intends to use deadly force or great bodily harm against the officers simply because he's being ejected from the stadium. The officers were attempting to use the minimal amount of force necessary to remove Brown, and 3 times when they attempted to put their hands on him, he attempted to defeat their efforts to grab him, which we'll see in this next video. So when we use force, we attempt to use the lowest level of force necessary. At this point, they're simply trying to put their hands on him, escort him out of the stadium. He makes the comment that he's ready to kill a police officer, so Officer Kelly draws his taser and covers Brown with his active taser we call red dot compliance, where there's a red dot on him. Usually most people understand this is serious and they tend to de-escalate. Brown continued to escalate. At this point in time, after continuing to make threats of bodily harm when he threatened Officer Bowers, Officer Kelly deploys his taser. While this happens, Officer Bowers, while the subject is under incapacitation from the taser, attempts to put a handcuff on him, and Brown still continues to resist at that point. Now Brown stands and verbally challenges, and by his body language challenges the officers that he's still not going to go to jail. He's still going to resist. The officers at this point have no reason to believe that he's not going to use physical violence, that he's not going to attempt to kill them, as he already stated he would. And this is the person they're dealing with as they escalate through their uses of force. All right? So At this point, we can determine he's displaying what we call active physical resistance. Active physical resistance is more than simply not obeying a verbal command. It's using physically evasive movements used by a subject to defeat an officer's attempt to control them. It can be demonstrated by a person becoming more increasingly animated with their body language and with their muscle tension, or by taking a fighting stance, or by verbalizing an aggressive intent, or any other behavior that indicates that violence is imminent from this person, which I think you can see Brown was displaying all of those traits of active physical resistance. So to overcome his resistance, the officers are going to increase their use of force until they can take him into custody. So next you're going to see Officer Kelly grab his handcuffs, and he's going to attempt to take Brown into custody. Simultaneously, Brown is continuing to yell racial slurs and that he's not going to go to jail and refusing to comply, the officers, and that's when Officer Bowers attempts to utilize his taser so that Kelly can take him into custody. And we'll see that in the next video.
Now you know something? I'm not going to jail. You stop me.
So at this point, Walter Brown has refused verbal commands to leave the stadium. He has refused verbal commands to be handcuffed. He's pulled back from officers' attempts, now in that video, 4 times where they attempt to use hand control to take him into custody, and he's been tased twice unsuccessfully. So after all of this, after all these steps have taken place, Officer Kelly then starts using strikes to gain compliance to take Brown into custody. So there's been some commentary on social media through the videos they've seen that it appears as if Officer Kelly is utilizing his handcuffs like brass knuckles. And we're going to show you a video real quick that shows you how he, what we would call, loaded his handcuffs in his hands, ready to deploy them. So if I were to pull my handcuffs out and prepare to use them, I would grab them in this manner right here so that I can quickly deploy them on the wrist of a subject I'm trying to take into custody. If I then am in a dynamic situation and I have to use force to strike someone, I'm not going to drop my handcuffs because I may need them. I'm instead going to use strikes with the object in my hand, which is the situation that Officer Kelly found himself in. So simultaneously while this has happened, you can see that Brown becomes off balance from the taser deployment. While he's able to defeat it, it does send him off his balance, which is a good opportunity for the officers to engage him to try to use force while he is at a disadvantage to take him to custody. It's at that point that Officer Kelly begins using strikes to gain compliance. Even after doing that, Brown continues to resist. In case you missed it, the next video is going to show you where, while they're engaged in this combat situation, Walter Brown continues to pull at the officer's shirt, so the officer can't disengage even if he wants to. This is another viewing of the handcuffs. They're not being used as brass knuckles. And this is where Walter Brown is holding the officer close to him so the officer cannot disengage even if he so chose. And then as the struggle continues, you're going to see that Walter Brown then attempts to grab the officer's gun off of his gun belt. And we'll show you that in the next video. And the next video is going to be the same social media video you saw, just with it slowed down so you can see with a better view Walter Brown's trying to grab the officer's gun. And during the original body-worn camera footage as it was playing, you can hear Officer Kelly voice to Officer Bowers, "He's trying to grab my gun." And here you see Officer Kelly is ensuring that his gun was in fact not taken out of the holster. So We saw how this played out, unfortunately, because of the closeness of the officer and and Walter Brown. The body worn camera didn't record what happened when they fell into the chairs, but we were able to utilize the stadium cameras at TIAA Bank Stadium to be able to show you what happened once he fell down in the chair, to show that once he was pinned against the chairs, once he stopped resisting, the officer's use of force ceased, and they then proceeded to take him into custody without further incident. As you can see, even after a very violent encounter, neither Officer Kelly or Bowers are issuing any more strikes. They're not utilizing any other force because he's now complying and the force has stopped. So now we're going to move on to the second incident that occurred later on in the day. So the first video we're going to show you, similar to the first, is a video that began circulating on social media that does not provide the full context of what occurred. So this all began around 6:30 to 6:50 p.m. when, again, a safe worker was working their assigned area of the stadium, and they had some fans that were causing issues with other fans. Specifically, these three men, Michael Long, Anthony Long, and Brandon Boley, were making threats towards other fans. They were getting in people's faces, creating an unsafe environment. There were fans that complained to SAFE that they felt like they were unsafe sitting in their seats. They went up to the upper deck. The SAFE employee engaged them multiple times, gave them warnings to stop, warned them they could be ejected, and they still continued on with their behavior. While this is taking place, and the SAFE employee is dealing with them, one of the fans actually took it upon themselves to go up to try to find a police officer to come help the SAFE worker because of how unruly they were becoming. So what we're going to see is we're going to see the body-worn camera footage of the three officers involved. The first video we're going to see is going to be from Officer Anthony, and it's going to be of the footage right whenever he's flagged down by the fan that was there, and it will proceed on to the encounter from that point. Once again, first 30 seconds is not recorded via audio until they activate their camera.
In like a shirt, like a...
Where?
Down there, and he was like, can you please send somebody down here?
Where? Come show me.
Hey man, you're about to go to jail. Come on. We got two behind us soon. All right, let's go.
How many people did you get? I think it's one.
You can tell me why. Let's go. Can we talk about it? No, don't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm asking you what you're going to talk about. Why are you asking about this? Let's go. Let's go. Are you taking this? I'm not going out there. I'm not going. 1, 2, 3. You're not going? All of the 17, third down, 5.
The next body-worn camera we're going to see is going to be Sergeant Beasley, who was the second responding person during this incident.
We told you once. We're gonna remove you. Let's go. You're not going? Put your hand behind your back. Do it now. Put your hand behind your back. Do it now. Put your hand behind your back. Give me your hand right now. I'm fixing to change you. You put your hand back. Give me this hand. Put this hand. I can't move. 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 I can't move.
And the next BWC we're going to see is from Officer Catino, the third officer that responded to this incident to use force. As you'll see in this videos and the others as it plays, there are multiple fans that thankfully stepped into
Hand behind your back.
So as I was saying, there were a number of fans you can see in these videos that actually stepped in to assist because of how volatile the situation was. So a couple points of emphasis on this video. As you saw, the three gentlemen, whatever you want to call them, they were asked to leave multiple times without any use of force. Repeatedly, they stayed in their seats. They wanted to negotiate the situation. They did not want to obey the officer's commands to leave the stadium, which they had a lawful authority to do. Only then did it escalate as far as the JSO's use of force. When Sergeant Beasley attempted to grab Michael Long to physically remove him, Michael Long pulled his hand back and then assumed a fighting stance, which we're going to see in this picture right here. Go back one. As you see right there, he's in a fighting stance, his right hand cocked back. That is a fighting stance that Sergeant Beasley was presented with. At that point, Sergeant Beasley delivered 2 strikes, grabbed Michael Long, and pulled him, trying to pull him out of the crowd into the stairway. At that point, in the next photo, you'll see Anthony Long jumps on Sergeant Beasley in a bear hug and is so forceful in his grabbing of Sergeant Beasley that if there was not a bar behind Sergeant Beasley right there, he would have been taken to the ground. But because there wasn't, he was able to maintain his footing, and then he begins to enter into a physical confrontation with Anthony Long, which we saw in his body-worn camera footage. This isn't a tap, it's not gentle, it's physical force that was being used against the officers that they were responding to. All right? The next clip we're going to play is going to be of Sergeant Beasley's body-worn camera as he's engaged with Anthony Long. So there's an important distinction to be made. It's one thing to say you're not doing something wrong whenever you may actually be doing something wrong. Your words do not equal your actions. At this point, Anthony Long continued to resist Sergeant Beasley after grabbing him. He was putting his hands on him. He does not have the ability or the lawful reason to do so, so Sergeant Beasley was using force to combat the force that was being used against him. Again, you can't just touch an officer and then say you're not doing anything wrong, and that's what Sergeant Beasley was responding to. So we'd like to address another video that was posted to social media that captured a different angle of this encounter with Michael Long, and we'll show you in this next video right here. So this clip, and I'm going to say clip specifically because this clip took a small portion that was most unfavorable to the officer to post on social media. We thankfully were able to find the original clip that had the beginning of it trimmed off and that was later circulating on social media. We'll show you that in this next video. So you see the original clip had Michael Long engaging with the officer, grabbing him, moving his hand to the officer's face, physically engaging the officer, but the officer then utilizes force to take him into custody. And if you look at a slow motion clip we have, he's putting his officer on his hand on the officer's face, near his eyes, near his face. While simultaneously in other videos that we've seen, he's grabbing the officer's gun belt. He is engaged with Officer Anthony. It's not a simple matter that Officer Anthony pulled him out of a crowd and decided to unnecessarily start attacking him. He was responding to the force that was being used against him. He responded with force in kind. And then here's another angle of that encounter that will again show Michael Long wrapped up with the officer engaging him with force. So when you watch that video in contrast with all the other ones, you see that Michael Long is using force against Officer Anthony, and Officer Anthony is using force to respond to the force being used against him. And it's important to note why he was using the force he was using is whenever someone grabbed someone the way Long grabbed Officer Anthony with his arm up by his head, there's a number of things he can do. He can grab his chin, his head, and pull Officer Anthony back, throw him off balance. He can try and flip him forward. So a typical way that we do training to defeat something like that, one option is to push them down, try and gain distance between your hips and that person so you can dislodge them from attacking you. That's what Officer Anthony did. Michael Long was in an elevated position on a stair above him, which made it even harder. So he's pushing down on Long while also using strikes until he was able to push him off of him and begin using other methods to take him into custody. Sure.
Thanks, Jake. So it's disheartening to announce on stage that social media is not necessarily real, or at least what you see on social media is not a real depiction of what's actually going on. Once again, we're seeing an intentionally misleading video clip, one lacking proper context pushed out on social media to drive a false narrative. As a leader of this agency, I will not remain silent while important facts and information are buried to advance an anti-police agenda. Won't do it. It's just not going to happen. The truth is Walter Brown, Michael Long, Alexander Long, and Brandon Boyle were aggressive and non-compliant with Everbank safe workers, and when those safe workers called for JSO officers to eject them, these suspects refused to comply with the police officers and resisted the officers in violation of Florida law. The outcome of Walter Brown, Michael Long, Alexander Long, and Brandon Boyle's arrests contrasts starkly, I add, with the 4 other arrests and 35 ejections with no issues, none whatsoever, that occurred on Saturday night's game, completely without incident. All the others arrested and ejected from the game that day complied with police directives and suffered no physical injury. Force, again, looks ugly. And because all force is ugly, not because officers are engaged in misconduct. It's just an ugly thing that happens when you have to be physical with someone who is refusing to do what you're asking them to do. So based on the currently available information, the agency believes that the involved officers acted appropriately with respect to the law and JSO policy. When an officer does wrong, I will stand up, as you've seen previously, and no one can deny this, and tell you straight and tell you the honest truth. Likewise, when officers have justifiably used force, I will stand up here and tell you straight. And effective immediately, all the video presented in this briefing is available on all JSO social media platforms and YouTube. Additionally, complete versions of all the officers' body-worn camera footage is available on JSO's transparency page. And I urge members of the public and the media to review both this briefing and body-worn camera footage for a more complete understanding of the nature and circumstances of these arrests. And listen, I know it's been long, I know it's been pretty tedious, but we thought it was very, very important for you all to see every part of this, because I didn't see this until this morning, because I want to remain completely neutral as the sheriff to oversee this agency and make sure that when I do see it, I have the facts as investigated by our professional accountability section. So with that, I'll answer any questions if you have any. Denise.
News for Jax. Do you believe the public may not completely understand the training of law enforcement when it comes specifically to strike for compliance?
Yes, so I 100% believe that. And that is why we stood up here today, and we want to try to explain this as best we can, not excuses. If they were wrong, I would say they're wrong. But when it comes to a situation like this, you saw even citizens that were at the game that were assisting. I believe one gentleman in a red shirt grabbed a guy and pulled him down to help the officer subdue him. So I can see how that's difficult for people to understand. But we're not playing games here. This is not a game. This is real life. These things turn ugly really, really quickly. So the best that we can, we try to control them as quickly as possible. And then what I think is very, very important for the public to note, this is extremely important, is that when it's time to stop, they stop. It's done professionally, looks rough, but it's done professionally, and when it's time to stop, when the subjects have been controlled, we stop. That's the professionalism, and that's how it's supposed to be done.
You know, there's a perception out there with all of this social media, it doesn't look good on JSO because of all of this strikes and force, right? And so what do you have to say knowing that, you know, just last week there was a federal lawsuit and now these guys are even claiming, oh, there's gonna be a lawsuit, there's gonna be a lawsuit. What do you have to say to those folks who are saying they're gonna throw that at you guys?
I'm sure there will be. There's no question in my mind, but that's not going to stop us from doing what we have to do as an agency to protect our officers and protect our public. In those cases, in both of those situations, we were summoned to that area. We weren't looking for it. I'm telling you, I can promise you this, police officers don't go looking for a fight. It's just not, in a lot of situations, it's not worth it. But we were summoned to those places, and we act in those places. And what people do when we come and we approach them with a lawful command, after being notified by safe workers to do something, we're not going to leave until you do what we ask you to do. And if you elevate it, because they elevated, each incident was elevated and was made worse by the individuals that were there who refused to comply with the orders. I think you've noticed, and anyone notices honest will see the conversation that took place in both situations. Long conversations trying to get people to comply. And unfortunately, they were unreasonable and did not want to comply. They didn't want to leave the game.
And with everything that happened, was there any threat to the public with all of these interactions in the field, or I'm sorry, in the stands?
I don't know. I mean, I think you could see civilians standing around holding people back. You know, they knew. You hear people saying, "Good job, officers. I bet you won't drink again." You hear that because this is what the officers are seeing. And this is what the officers are acting on. I think they could have been hurt, but they stayed away. They stayed back to make sure we can get the job done and get it done with as least amount of force as possible. Those strikes were not to his face. If you saw the pictures, everybody's face was fine. Those strikes were to gain compliance, which is why we strike in most cases, to gain compliance. And this is what we want the public to understand.
Sheriff, you mentioned there was a total number of incidents. How many did you say that weren't escalated? Were
35.
35.
Yeah, 35 ejections. You know, this was a different game. I've been here for a long time, seen a lot of games. They're not always like this. We had a horse punched in the face by someone on APR. We had 6 officers hurt in other places doing things during this game. We have to protect ourselves. We have to make sure we protect the public. And when we reach something of this magnitude, we're going to do what's necessary to take a person into custody as safely as possible. But if you force us to use force, we're going to do that till we can gain control and get you out like you're supposed to.
And I want to clarify, you guys said there was a threat made to the officer. Was that the same person that was here or separate?
No, you know, it's contrary to popular belief, we don't all look alike. It's 2 officers, and that's not directed to you. That's directed to some people on social media. There's 2 different black male officers that were involved, one with Walter Brown and one here. They're not the same guy. I believe there was conversations that he's a menace. No, didn't have anything to do with the same guy. It was a different guy in different incidents. What was the beginning of your question?
There was a threat made. Is that the person who made the threat online, is that the same person you guys arrested here?
No. So not that we know of. The person that made the threat online was made to the first situation, Walter Brown's arrest. He was referring to that arrest and used some of the same language. So they're probably buddies or something. They probably think the same. And the officer did not react the way he reacted because of the language. He reacted because he refused to do what he was being asked to do.
And as for all the officers, are they still working like normal?
Yeah, 100%. They are still working. They're still on the street doing the daily work of serving the citizens of this community.
And there were drones in the area. Were those all the JSO officers, or are those related to the game, the drones around the field?
No, I'm not quite sure about the drones. I know that the stadium flies some, but we can get you some of those answers.
Regarding the 2 incidents, the investigations, is this concluded or is there anything else that needs to be investigated moving forward?
Right now, the administrative reviews are complete. We're still going to be reviewing information if some more comes in. We're going to look at it and see if it adds to anything, but investigatively, when it comes to the subjects, that's the state attorney's issue now. They're going to move on from there. You know, it's disappointing when you hear stuff like, and I'm kind of going off a little bit, but when you hear stuff like this is I forget the terms that were being used, but that was our officers that were in danger. You know, these are men and women that live in this community, that work in this community very hard every single day, and we don't arbitrarily just do things because we want to do them. We do them because it's our duty and it's our job to do those things. Yes.
Over at Georgia games, they bring on a specific type of crowd. You even said it's like one of the biggest tailgates in town, right?
Yeah.
Or in the country, rather. Is there any a different type of training that goes into this kind of officer work when you guys go in the game and prepare for this?
No, I think you saw the extensive amount of training that we go through. These guys, and the commander explained it, these guys know the steps to follow. They know what to do, when to do it, when they need to stop. They're complete professionals, so we work in these situations all the time. And I believe it's called the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, is what they call it. And here's the facts. I was there that day about noon, about 12:30, and there were already people that were completely inebriated before the game even started. So we understand going into it that this is going to be a possibility, that these things happen. You just don't want them to happen, but it did. And I'm glad that they handled it the way that they handled it. They handled it professionally. Though it looks rough, it was done the right way, and everybody came out safely.
And just to clarify, I know that you guys brought it up with the handcuffs and with the tasering. First, with the taser, is there a specific distance that you're allowed to use the taser? Do you have to be a certain distance away? Is there any protocol for that?
No, not necessarily. But he was a good distance away to make sure. It's just sometimes there are a select few people in this world that can withstand the effects of that weapon. He waited it out, you know, and then basically you saw what happened from there.